there lived a woman named Mrs. Smith. In Jamaica, they don't say Smith, they say Simit. Mrs. Simit. And Mrs. Simit had had her eye for a long time on Mr. You know it. Mr. Johnson. She loved off Mr. Johnson. Every day she would see Mr. Johnson coming and going, coming and going. She'd say, good evening, Mr. Johnson. Good evening, Miss Smith. And he would go into his house. And Miss Smith had set her cap at Mr. Johnson, and she was sure she would get him until the day he turned up on the bus from Kingston with that woman, his wife, Mrs. Johnson. And to make matters worse, Mrs. Smith knew that Mr. Johnson was being disrespected by Mrs. Johnson on a daily basis with Herbie. Now, I don't know if it was because she loved Mr. Johnson, or if, like me, she was just bitter and twisted. Because she was not getting what she wanted to get, if you know what I mean. So every evening when she saw Mr. Johnson coming home from the Key and Peace, she would stop him and she would say, Mr. Johnson, look to your wife. And Mr. Johnson would say, yes, Miss Smith, I will look to my wife. And he would go up the hill. Every day he would cut cane. Every day at the bottom of the hill, Miss Smith would hear, Herbie, oh God, Herbie, Herbie, oh yes, Herbie, yes, there, I'm there, I'm there, and oh Herbie, 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 Herbie. Every evening, it was the same routine. Every evening, Mrs. Johnson was getting something that Mrs. Smith was not getting. Furthermore, Mrs. Johnson rather was getting it twice. Once from her husband and again from Herbie. It was too much. And one evening, as Mr. Johnson was passing Mrs. Smith's house, she came rushing out to the house. He said, good evening, Miss Smith. I'm in a rush. She said, Mr. Johnson, I am begging you, look to your wife. And there was something in Mrs. Smith's eyes that made Mr. Johnson stop and consider. Perhaps there was something in this after all. Crick! So the next morning, Mr. Johnson got up as usual. Mrs. Johnson gave him his breakfast as usual. He took his cutlass as usual. He said, Miss Johnson, I soon come. See you later. She said, yes, Mr. Johnson, see you later. And instead of going to the Key and Peace, he stood by the side of the house. And he waited. He waited until he heard kung, 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 kung. He peeped round the side of the house, and who did he see? Herbie. Longfoot Herbie. Bright shiny eye Herbie. Strong chest Herbie. Big teely Herbie. Standing outside his house. And the door opened. And Mrs. Johnson said, Herbie, you're looking good today. And he said, and you're looking even better. Get inside. And Mr. Johnson could not believe what was happening. Mr. Johnson stood by the side of the house and he heard, oh God, Herbie, you want to try it like that? All right, do it like that. No, don't do it like that. All right.